Welcome, welcome. Let's dive right in.
In the early months of 2025, the United States found itself teetering on the brink of a government shutdown. The Republican-controlled House had passed a stopgap spending bill aimed at maintaining government operations, but it came with significant spending cuts that many Democrats found unpalatable. The bill proposed to keep spending at approximately $6.75 trillion for the fiscal year, cutting about $7 billion compared to the previous year's levels. Notably, it included a $6 billion increase for the U.S. military while reducing non-defense programs by $13 billion. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer faced a dilemma: oppose the bill and risk a government shutdown, or support it and accept the austerity measures. After much deliberation, Schumer chose the latter, citing the severe consequences of a shutdown, particularly concerning the potential for President Trump and Elon Musk to exploit the situation to their advantage. Schumer argued that avoiding a shutdown was crucial to prevent Trump from undermining government agencies during the chaos. This decision did not sit well with many within the Democratic Party. Progressives and centrists alike felt betrayed, believing that Schumer had capitulated to Republican demands without sufficient resistance. Critics argued that Schumer missed an opportunity to present the Democrats as a strong alternative to President Trump, and that unity behind a shutdown threat could have pressured Republicans into negotiating better terms. Among the most vocal critics was Representative Ro Khanna of California. Known for his progressive stance and advocacy for anti-corruption measures within the party, Khanna saw Schumer's decision as emblematic of a broader issue within Democratic leadership. He believed that the party had strayed from its core principles and had become too accommodating to Republican agendas. In a fiery speech on the House floor, Khanna declared, "Chuck Schumer has sold us out. It's time to take back the Democratic Party." Khanna's call to action resonated with many Democrats who felt disillusioned by the party's direction. Grassroots movements began to form, rallying around the idea of reclaiming the party's progressive roots. Discussions about potential primary challenges against incumbent leaders gained momentum, with figures like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez being urged to run against Schumer in the 2028 primary. The internal strife within the Democratic Party highlighted a significant divide between the establishment and the progressive wing. As the nation watched, it became clear that this was more than just a disagreement over a spending bill. It was a battle for the soul of the party. In the wake of Representative Ro Khanna's impassioned call to reclaim the Democratic Party, a wave of activism swept across the nation. Progressive organizations, long advocating for systemic change, found renewed energy and support. Grassroots movements flourished, with town halls, rallies, and community meetings becoming commonplace. The message was clear: the party needed to return to its roots and prioritize the needs of everyday Americans over corporate interests. Khanna, leveraging his growing influence, embarked on a nationwide tour to promote an anti-corruption agenda. He proposed comprehensive reforms, including banning former members of Congress from lobbying, imposing term limits, and enforcing a binding code of ethics for Supreme Court justices. His vision resonated with a broad spectrum of voters, including those who had felt alienated by traditional party politics. Meanwhile, the call for new leadership intensified. Progressives urged Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to challenge Chuck Schumer in the upcoming primary. While Ocasio-Cortez remained non-committal publicly, she acknowledged the growing frustration within the party and emphasized the need for unity and bold action. The media took note of these developments, with political analysts debating the potential impact of a progressive takeover. Some warned of further fragmentation within the party, while others saw it as a necessary evolution to address the pressing issues of the time. The narrative of a party at a crossroads dominated headlines, capturing the attention of the nation. Amidst this backdrop, local elections began to reflect the shifting dynamics. Progressive candidates, inspired by Khanna's message, challenged establishment figures in primaries across the country. Many of these challengers emphasized policies centered on economic justice, environmental sustainability, and social equity. The success of these candidates signaled a broader appetite for change within the electorate. However, the path was not without obstacles. Establishment Democrats pushed back, cautioning against radical shifts that could alienate moderate voters. They argued for a more measured approach, emphasizing the importance of building broad coalitions to achieve legislative success. This tension underscored the ideological divide within the party, with both sides grappling to define its future direction. As the 2026 midterm elections loomed, the stakes were high. The outcome would not only determine control of Congress, but also set the tone for the Democratic Party's trajectory leading into the next presidential election. The question remained: could the party reconcile its internal differences and present a unified front to the American people? The 2026 midterm elections became a referendum on the Democratic Party's future. Would it continue along the centrist path carved by figures like Chuck Schumer, or would the progressive wave, spearheaded by Ro Khanna, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and their allies, reshape its identity? Across the country, insurgent candidates challenged establishment Democrats in primary races. In New York, AOC's rumored Senate bid loomed over Schumer, though she had yet to officially declare. In California, Khanna worked tirelessly to elect progressives at every level, from city councils to the U.S. Senate. The energy on the ground was palpable. Young voters, disillusioned with traditional Democratic leadership, turned out in record numbers. College campuses buzzed with activism, and labor unions, frustrated by years of stagnation on workers' rights, threw their weight behind progressive candidates who promised real change. Schumer, meanwhile, scrambled to maintain control. He poured money into establishment campaigns, securing endorsements from party heavyweights, and warning that an internal war would only weaken the party before the 2028 presidential race. "We need unity," he declared at a press conference, not division. But for many voters, unity was not the issue, accountability was. Then came the bombshell. A leaked internal memo from Schumer's camp revealed discussions about suppressing progressive challengers by redirecting DNC funds to incumbents, regardless of their standing in the polls. The revelation ignited a firestorm. Progressives, already wary of party elites, seized upon it as proof that the system was rigged against them. Protests erupted outside DNC headquarters, with chants of "Take back the party" echoing through the streets. The midterm results sent shockwaves through Washington. While progressives didn't win every race, they made substantial gains, ousting key establishment figures and claiming a growing share of seats in the House and Senate. It was clear the Democratic Party was changing, whether its old guard liked it or not. With the midterms behind them, attention shifted to the next big fight, the 2028 presidential election. President Trump, having narrowly won re-election in 2024, was term-limited. His influence over the Republican Party remained strong, and his successor, likely a loyalist, would be formidable. The Democrats needed a candidate who could unite their fractured coalition and appeal to an increasingly frustrated electorate. Names began circulating. Some establishment figures floated Vice President Pete Buttigieg as the obvious choice, arguing that he could appeal to moderates and even some disaffected Republicans. But progressives weren't convinced. "We can't afford another corporate-friendly nominee," Khanna warned at a rally. "We need someone who will fight for working people, not Wall Street." The progressive wing, emboldened by its midterm victories, had its own ideas. AOC, though still non-committal, was at the center of speculation. Khanna himself was a possibility, along with other rising stars like Senator John Fetterman. The battle lines were being drawn. Behind the scenes, Schumer and his allies worked to ensure that the party machinery remained in their control. They sought to push a unity candidate, someone palatable to both wings of the party. But the progressives had learned from past elections. They wouldn't let their movement be sidelined again. Tensions reached a boiling point at the Democratic National Convention. Progressive delegates, demanding fairer primary rules and an end to corporate influence in the party, clashed with establishment figures who feared that moving too far left would hand the election to the Republicans. The debate over superdelegates resurfaced, with progressives calling for their elimination. As the convention approached its climax, the party faced a defining moment. Would it embrace the wave of change or cling to the status quo? Would it allow the energy of the movement to propel it forward, or would it once again attempt to suppress the progressive surge? The Democratic National Convention of 2028 was unlike any before it. The divide between progressives and the establishment was no longer just a whisper in backrooms. It was out in the open, a full-scale ideological battle playing out in front of the nation. On one side stood the establishment, backing Vice President Pete Buttigieg as their candidate. The party leadership had carefully orchestrated his rise, positioning him as the safe choice, a moderate who could unite Democrats and win over centrists exhausted by 8 years of Trumpism. On the other side, the progressive movement, led by Ro Khanna, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and their allies, refused to accept another corporate-friendly nominee. As the delegates gathered in the packed convention hall, the tension was electric. Protesters filled the streets outside, waving signs reading, "No more sellouts," and "Take back the party." Inside, progressives had amassed a formidable coalition, with AOC emerging as their leading candidate. The question was whether they had the numbers to challenge the party machine. When the first round of voting came in, Buttigieg led, but he didn't have enough delegates to secure the nomination outright. AOC came in second, with Ro Khanna and a handful of other progressives pulling in the remaining votes. The convention floor erupted into chaos. Establishment figures scrambled to consolidate support behind Buttigieg, while progressives urged undecided delegates to stand with the movement. Then, in a moment that would be remembered for generations, Ro Khanna took the stage. The crowd fell silent as he spoke. "This is our moment," he declared. "For too long, our party has been controlled by donors, lobbyists, and corporate interests. But tonight, we stand together to say, no more. We don't need another candidate who plays it safe. We need a candidate who will fight for workers, for the planet, for the future we deserve." His speech sent shockwaves through the convention. Across the hall, undecided delegates whispered among themselves. Was this the turning point? Then came the final, unexpected twist. In a historic move, AOC took the microphone and addressed the crowd. "I am proud to stand with Ro Khanna and this movement," she said. "And I believe that the best way forward is together." In a dramatic moment of unity, she withdrew from the race and threw her full support behind Khanna. The convention hall exploded with cheers and chants of "Ro, Ro, Ro." The momentum shifted instantly. Progressive delegates rallied behind Khanna, and after an intense night of negotiations and backroom deals, the final vote was cast. Ro Khanna was officially the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. Part 6. The Election of a Lifetime. The general election campaign against the Republican nominee, Senator Josh Hawley, Trump's handpicked successor, was a battle for the soul of the nation. The Republican strategy was clear: paint Khanna as a radical socialist, an extremist who would lead the country into chaos. They flooded the airwaves with attack ads, warning of woke policies and big government socialism. But Khanna, armed with the energy of a grassroots movement, fought back. He traveled to union halls, college campuses, and working-class neighborhoods, delivering a message of economic populism and political reform. He called for an end to corporate influence in Washington, universal health care, and a Green New Deal to combat climate change. His campaign, powered by small-dollar donations and volunteers, became a people-powered revolution. For the first time in decades, a Democratic candidate wasn't just running against the Republicans. He was running against the corrupt political system itself. His slogan, "For the people, not the powerful," resonated across the country. Debate night was the defining moment. Facing off against Josh Hawley, Khanna delivered a scathing critique of both Trump-era policies and establishment complacency. The American people don't need more politicians who sell them out to corporations and billionaires. They need a government that works for them. His fiery performance sent shockwaves through the political world. As Election Day approached, the polls were razor-thin. Corporate donors poured millions into Hawley's campaign, while Khanna's supporters worked tirelessly to register new voters and turn out the base. The night before the election, millions of Americans gathered in city squares for rallies, chanting, "This time, we take it back." And then, on November 7th, 2028, history was made. In a stunning upset, Ro Khanna defeated Josh Hawley, flipping key battleground states and delivering a victory powered by working people, young voters, and the progressive movement. The establishment had fought hard to stop him, but in the end, the people had spoken. As Khanna stood before a roaring crowd on election night, he raised his fist and declared, "This is only the beginning."